A couple of years ago, I had the great pleasure of visiting a carrossier in Italy, and it's owned by uh, James Glickenhaus and Paolo Garella. And in that carrosserie, they're building the most magnificent cars. The SCG 003 was the one I saw. And during my visit, we went to Tazio Nuvolari, and Paolo took me out in this car on the track, and it was outstanding. I have been very fortunate to have been in a number of different cars on racetracks around the world, and uh, that day was one that I probably remember a little more vividly than most because the car was just an incredible piece of technology. I'm really pleased right now to have with me as a guest on the podcast Paolo Garella, and we are well. There you are, Paolo, sitting in Italy. I'm sitting in Canada right now, and away we go. How are you?
Good. You know, we are living very strange time. We are at our age. We are relearning to work from home and to very quickly reorganize our company to be able to keep going in this strange time. I think that after this, the world would be a little different from what we have seen so far, but it's a new challenge that is very, very interesting, I think.
So, Paolo, can you give me some of your background? I mean, I know a bit of it, but anybody listening to this doesn't. Where were your roots? How did you get started, and where did your love and fascination for cars start?
Well, my road started many years ago. I think that since when I was a child, I was fascinated by cars, and I was very lucky to have my father that introduced me to cars, and then another person in my family, my uncle, was let's say, what we call in Italian a true ingegnere. And this, I think, gave me this passion into car and to my dream. And then there's been another moment in which I went to see the Torino Motor Show, and the Pininfarina was showing the Ferrari Pinin, the only four-door ever built, and four-door Ferrari ever built. Actually, we built a few after. I built a few after for the Sultan of Brunei. But at that point, that car for me was wow, was a dream. Was different, was special, was crazy, was everything what I wanted to do. And I say, this is what I want to do when I will grow up. And so I graduated from the Polytechnic of Torino, and after I decided to go work abroad, not to stay in Italy, and I became a test engineer with Goodyear in Luxembourg. It was an incredible experience because I got a kind of imprint from an American company that at that time, I'm talking 84 up to 89, was really the peak of what a great American company was. We had incredible possibility for training, for learning, and incredible management. It was really a dream to work there. Then the first financial crisis came in, and then I decided to come in. So after 2 years, I was very fortunate to be asked by Pininfarina to join the company as the responsible for the engineering and the construction of the prototypes. And I was even more lucky when, say, 6 months after joining Pininfarina, we received a very famous phone call from the Sultan of Brunei that asked us to go down because they wanted to have a direct deal with us and to build directly the car for him without any middleman in between. And we're talking 1992, and that was, let's say, an incredible period because from 92 to 97, we built every year between 50 and 70 cars. All of them were one-off or very, very limited series. And the wildest things you can imagine we did more. So we did the famous four-door 456, the estate version. We did the special XJ220. We built 42 different 456 in different shape and form. We built, at a certain moment, we had Ferrari Testarossa 355, XJ220, all converted to semi-automatic gearbox. We were having at that point more than 500 people working inside and outside Pininfarina only for him. And Pininfarina was a so great company at the time that all the money that was coming from the Sultan was invested to make the company stronger, to increase the competence of the company, and to expand and to be ready for when eventually this would end up. And from there, I asked again Andrea Pininfarina to relaunch a division to do special vehicle. And at that point, absolutely nobody was believing that this was a business. I remember phone call with Ferrari in which they were saying, that's not a business, we are not interested, etc. And we are talking 2001, 2002. And the first two contracts we signed were with Peter Kalikov, for which we did a very special 612. And then the very famous P45 for Jim. And a new world started, because when we presented that car in Paris in 2005, 2006, everybody understood the strength and the importance that a one-off built for a special client could have.
I had heard that there was some pushback on that car from Ferrari. They weren't absolutely delighted that an Enzo had been basically turned into something else. Do you know any background on that?
But yes, I was there all the time, so I know all the steps and the different positions. Let's say that. I think there was only one person that that clearly understood what was happening, and this was Jason Castriotto, the designer of the P45. I think because his connection, he is from New York. Because of his connection, he was the only one that was understanding what we were doing at that time. It was the team was a kind of magic team, a dream team, because I was responsible for the whole project, and I wanted to show to the company that it was possible to do those things. Jason wanted to design this car. A number of people in the company was really almost waiting for a project like this, and it came out really something very special. From the Ferrari point of view, they did not understand. They did not see what that car was. And when they show it in our stand in Geneva, and when Marchione, instead of walking to their stand, came to our stand to see what car it was, I think it was an incredible shock for them. And at that point, they tried to control the business, the process, the client, and basically that was the last Ferrari that Pininfarina built like this in isolation. You have to think that the P45 is the only Ferrari that has not built by Ferrari. Clearly is built on an Enzo, but is the only Ferrari that has been built by Pininfarina for a client without any connection, any control from Ferrari. The sign-off of the car has been done by us. Everything was done in Pininfarina. So it's really a very, very special vehicle.
Yeah, I think something else about that is, it is, I can remember the first time I ever saw it. It was in front of the lodge at Pebble Beach. And, you know, it was clustered with a lot of other prototypical cars. And I don't even remember any of the others. I mean, it was just stunning. And I can still remember where it was and how I first saw it. And it was breathtaking. And I have to think that that probably niggled Ferrari a little bit because you out Ferrari'd them. I mean, there's a lot of good looking Ferraris, but that one is outstanding. I mean, I think that stands with certainly anything that Scagliati or anybody else has ever done. So, I mean, you've got a lot to be proud of there, but I can also see why there was a little bit of well, sourness on Ferrari's part.
But yes, you know, when you saw it in Pebble the same day or the day after, Jean Todt, that was at that time the general manager or even the CEO of Ferrari at the time, he came and looked at the car and asked a lot of questions on the car, because one of the questions was, why you don't design something like this for us? and the answer was, well, because you don't allow us to do it, because your process and your things are such that you don't allow anymore to do something like this. I think Jean Todt clearly understood what was the strengths and the potential of the one-off market, and then he pushed in this direction. Clearly, as Ferrari, I then understand that they wanted to control the client, to have a direct access to the client. So since then, Ferrari has forced everybody, not only Pininfarina, but Zagato, Fioravanti, everything. If you have a client and if you want to do a Ferrari, you have to bring the client to us. You will design the car, but we will sell the car as a Ferrari to the final client. And frankly, I understand. It's their brand and they have to protect it.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, coach building, you know, and I was recently speaking to Keith Dean, who is an American custom car builder, hot rodder and everything, which basically to me is coach building, very much like it was before the war in Europe and a little bit after the war. And I mean, you know, it's all about, you know, people taking an already existing car and altering it and changing it and sometimes not making it better, but making it different. But sometimes, you know, in the case of this, you make it so much better. You know, I think that large companies that sort of forget that they were based in the, you know, they have the same kind of roots, and who forget that Pininfarina has been designing Ferraris for an awful long time. You know, I think that not letting privateers in diminishes everything, because now you start to get corporate guys running things that really they shouldn't be running. You don't have that sort of expression coming into the design of things. I mean,
well, there is another aspect that is not very much known probably in the in the automotive world. This one-off has become an incredible opportunity for the internal style studio of the manufacturer to do things that before company would have done once a year for a motor show. So the famous dream car, or the concept car, as they are called. Now this one-off have become for this company a way to do these kind of things, having them paid by somebody else. I think that this is an incredible risk for this company, because having been one of the first ones that have restarted this business, I can say that the biggest risk for this object is their use. Car becomes valuable and becomes important for history if they mean something and if they have a use. When you do a one-off with somebody like Jim Glickenhaus, the car is used, is shown, there is a meaning, there is everything. When you start to do specials just because you call them special, it's the most risky things for the business of one-off, because those cars have not a real value, have not a real meaning. They are not going to be used, and they are so expensive that the odds they finish their life in not use with few hundred miles in a collection somewhere in the world makes
or in a corporate warehouse.
or in a corporate warehouse
Yeah. Yeah.
makes this the biggest risk for this. What I have learned is that when you build something and when you ask somebody to invest an important amount of money to do something like a one-off, you have to create or you have to deliver not only a shape, you have to deliver a concept, you have to eventually to fulfill a dream, to do a car, to do an object that have a meaning and have a use and is used for it. When we did SCG, the conceptual work behind on what that car should
Just
have been.
to point out to people, now
Yes.
the SCG wasn't built with Pininfarina. This was
No.
basically a
Yeah.
privateer. You know, Jim is a privateer in the spirit of the 1920s and 30s in this respect.
Yes, absolutely. Let's say that I left the Pininfarina in 2009. I started to work with Jim immediately, let's say, and we did the first P45 competizione that was built by another company, and then in 2014, we decided to do a car completely from scratch. It was no longer a modified Ferrari. It has to represent something unique and built for this concept of race and road, but to compete and to win in the probably one of the most challenging competition in the world. This is the 24-hour of the Nürburgring. The concept and intellectual work that was done up front in terms of technical solution, component, shape, what was underneath the skin, usability. It was what I I liked. It was a connection between the history of Italy and the coach building history of the Italian past. The concept, for example, how the body was put together was a direct link with the superleggera concept of touring. The accessibility of the part behind the skin was done to take care of the difficulties that there are in the race of the Nürburgring, where you need to have the capability to dismantle the car very quickly, but also you don't have space because you have 6 other cars in your box. The engine was chosen because it was a 6-liter turbo, and you need a turbo when you race at that height. So everything was put together to create a winning car. But when the project started, the idea was to do a one-off. And for me was the natural development that started with the Kappa for Peter Kalikov, that went through the P45, the Hyperion, and other cars we did in that time, and to create something that has a mean and has a use. And the value of the object is so related to the use that you do with that vehicle, that create a link, create a project. It's not just a car, but is a project in which there is a dream to win a race, there is a win to do something extreme, or just to go around Monte Carlo, if you want, like in the Hyperion, the Rolls-Royce Hyperion that we did, and you shape your project around the need and the dream of your client.
Yeah. Well, Jim told me that he had actually he had one of the cars. He was driving it around New York State and came back and talked to you about the visibility, you know, of stoplights and things like that. Not something that's usually thought of when a supercar is being developed.
Yeah, absolutely. The evolution, when then we built the road version of the SCG, for example, one of the things was to create an opening on the roof to allow a better visibility when you're stopped to a traffic light. So yes, it's a constant evolution, and it's like to produce or to design to create a glove for somebody. And it's the beauty of this work, to be able to do a motor car, but to shape it around your clients.
Yeah. One of the great sorrows of my life was Jim had invited me to actually go to Nürburgring for the 24-hour before you guys had headed out on the track at that first race. And life being life, I just couldn't spare the time to get there at that time, and so missed that. But how did you do at Nürburgring on your first outing?
Oh, now it's quite a few years ago. Let's say that for me as an engineer, and then as an entrepreneur, has been an incredible achievement, because it took 2 years, but at the third year we saw that what was conceived at the beginning in terms of global package on car was working, and we were leading the race in front of Audi, Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, and we were in a leading position for the beginning of the race, up to when we were pushed out by by another car. But for me, that was probably the one of the biggest achievements of my career, because the car that I conceived to do what to be, let's say, the leading car, did it. And I think there was, for an engineer, I think there is nothing better than that, to see his dream realized and to see that
Yeah.
you are right.
So what direction are you going in now? I mean, is the SCG still being developed, or has that been put aside for other cars that are more advanced?
No, let's say that let's say our relation with Jim finished in 2017,
Hmm.
where he decided basically to bring most of the development and the development of the new car back to US. We have done since then another project for a gentleman for Hong Kong. It's called, probably you have seen it, is the Apollo Intensa Emozione.
When I was poking around in your storage area when I was there, there was an Apollo under the cover, and I met
Yeah,
the gentleman. He's a great chap.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we did we did for him 2 cars, the first 2 cars, and then we started for let's say for our own the production of the new Stratos. That is a project that I completed in Pininfarina. It was the last of the one-off project I did in Pininfarina, and I remain friend with the owner, that is a German entrepreneur, that is Michael Stoshek. I asked Michael the possibility to reproduce his car in 25 pieces, and he agreed. So now we are producing these 25 cars. So we are building that, and then last year we signed a big contract for a Japanese company, and we have now finished the development of the Aspark All, that is a full electric hypercar with over 2,000 horsepower, that wants to be the fastest accelerating car on standard tires. So we are aiming to an acceleration of 1.9 seconds, not to 60, and with a top speed of roughly 420 kilometers per hour.
Well, that's going to be an accomplishment. It's funny because I remember not too long ago Ferrari saying they would never build an electric car, and I thought that is so incredibly short-sighted, because eventually that's all people are going to want to have. And along those same lines, I've been playing with the idea, and I've spoken to people about the idea of building basically a chassis that is adjustable. front to back and side to side, so that you can fit old coachwork, 1950s, 60s, 70s cars onto an electric chassis and make it basically turnkey for an owner. So, if a guy wants a 57 Chevy, he doesn't have to have one with a gas burning engine in it. He can have an electric 57 Chevy, which I think will appeal more to younger people who really look at gas powered cars as dinosaurs.
I think that there is another, let's say, nice fit with electric, is that if you think of the use of those cars are used for fun, but nobody really drives thousands of kilometers with those cars.
Yeah.
So, and the electric really allows you to have instant torque, a lot of fun, to have oversteering when you like, yeah, if you have 400, 600, between 400 and 600 miles range, it's much more than what you want. The only problem we still have today is the cost of developing a specific battery. So an idea like yours, in which you create a chassis that you can modular, in which you can reduce the price of the battery by having a decent amount to build, to produce. So that is, I think there is really, could be really interesting, very interesting application for an idea like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully I'll get enough energy together to push it forward. We'll see. I'm no spring chicken at this point, so I find that I have a lot more fun sitting on a couch sometimes than I do charging off in new directions. But I have the itch. So tell me, the Stratos, is the Stratos a one-off, or is it a limited production, or where is that going?
It's a limited production of 25 cars. We have sold roughly the first 10 cars. It's a car that use some Ferrari parts. We are basically starting off from a chassis that is the one of the 430, and we change everything. Very honestly, the use of the chassis is more to have a title and to have a better or easier way to register the car.
Yeah.
The car can be sold worldwide. We have sold cars from Australia to Hong Kong to US to Germany to Switzerland. It's a very analog car. It's very fun to drive. It has it's a shorter wheelbase, and we tune the suspension, the engine, a little bit of the gearbox if the client wants. The car is lighter than a 430. It's very light. It's around it's 100 kilo lighter than the 430, and it's much more rigid. We are roughly 30% stiffer than the 430, and it's a car that does not have a lot of aero downforce. So it's a car a little bit like the one we used to drive, with a lot of torque, with an instant response. A perfect car to drive on the mountain, on the hills, to really to have fun and to enjoy the sound of the V8 engine from Ferrari. So it's a very nice package.
Did you retain the basically the design cues from the original Lancia Stratos? Yes,
the car is very, I would say, similar to similar. It's strongly inspired by the Lancia Stratos. Okay. It's I have a model. If you want, I can show it to you.
Sure.
I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, that is very much like the original.
You're saying? I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah, I could see it. I was just saying it's very much like the original, just a little cleaner in its design. It's
yes.
It's funny. The Lancia Stratos has always been a favorite of mine ever since they first came out. And I remember there was a top 10 list of the most dangerous production cars ever built. And the Lancia Stratos tied with the 1996 Viper GT or GTS as the two most dangerous cars. And I've owned one of them, and it was actually uphorsed an extra 200 horsepower by Modified Magazine. And I concur, if you didn't know what you're doing, that car would kill you in an instant. And I've never had the pleasure of driving a Stratos, but I know people who have, who said that's a pretty finicky little car because the short wheelbase and lots of power.
If you come to Italy, you're welcome to try and test it. And we are now, we will probably in a couple of months, we deliver back a car to US. So you are welcome to go and drive it if you want.
Yeah, I would love to do that. You know, it's funny, and you know, the original route of that car, the Lancia Stratos Concert Zero, was owned by a friend of mine, Thomas Mao. And as a matter of fact, we exhibited together in Kuwait, the two cars, the Bugatti Aerolith and the Lancia concept car were in the same container, and the Kuwaitis lost the container. It was lost for about 3 months. I wasn't concerned. Thomas was just peaking. I mean, how can you be so calm? He said, well, if it turns up, it turns up. If it doesn't, well. But yeah, and that was a funny little car, and it resembled the actual Lancia Stratos, not at all. But I mean, you know, as we know, the story was they were so impressed by Bertoni driving that through their gate that they gave him the contract to build the Stratos. And I mean, thank God they did, because what an amazing car.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of my, for me, it was really a dream car. I remember the first time I saw it at a rally close by here. It was parked in the middle of an empty square. It was, wow, what's that? It was really unbelievable. Very, very special. Even today, I mean, when you see an old one now, but
well, I can't. Well, you know, the trouble is when you see an old one now, they're generally at auction sales, and they're just so expensive. They've always been expensive. I mean, I do remember a missed opportunity at one time. I was second one to a garage where there was a Stratos ferreted away, and it was relatively cheap. It was still a lot of money, but it was affordable at that time, and I was the second respondent to the ad and the first runner-up.
So. Yeah, it happens. So yeah, so now we are doing this Stratos, and then we have another project that we are trying to launch in the next hopefully next year, and it's but that will be the first car that is going to be completely let's say design and develop on one of my ideas, and it's going to be probably the first car sold under our name, so under Manifattura Automotive Torino, because so far almost everything except the Stratos, but everything we have done either has been designed for somebody else or has been let's say then sold, even if we build it, has been sold under another brand. So now we're really trying to launch our brand and to show our capability under our brand. So that's going to be a very, very important step, an important point in the evolution of the company.
I would love to come out sometime in the next year or so and visit and get caught up on everything you're doing. It's been a while, been too long, and circumstances not favorable at this moment.
No,
but you know, probably in a few months, I'm sure there will be. And I'm just well, you've invited me to drive a Stratos. How can I not come?
You have the option. You can come to US or you can come to Italy.
No, I'd rather come
here.
Much rather come to Italy.
Here, I can take you on some very, very nice mountain road and really to enjoy and to have a good lunch and a nice glass of wine in the middle of the test drive.
That I'm going to take you up on. Well, maybe not the wine, because I don't drink wine because it's just wasted on me. But so I wouldn't know a good wine if you hit me over the head with a bottle. But but as for the rest of it, I'm in. So listen, it has been wonderful speaking to you today. I will see you in the next year or so.
Thank
face
you.
to face. And I want you to catch me up on everything to do with your new company, new endeavors, and well, let's stay in close contact. I've really enjoyed this. Been too long since we've seen each other.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
All right. Okay, well,
So
take care.
thank
And
you.
Paolo, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All
I wait for you, huh?
right.